to look at seed dispersal, please pause to look at any particular item in more detail, because the description I'm giving will be part of what you will see. So what's the purpose of seed dispersal? Want to increase plant numbers. A particular plant species wants to increase its numbers in preference to other plants and populate new localities, escape competition with other species and evade pests. So two main types, biotic, abiotic, and here we have a list of biotic ones involving different animals, and the abiotic ones not involving the animals. And often seed dispersal occurs by more than one method, so we will look predominantly at single methods here. So why disperse seeds? What would happen without dispersal methods? So you can pause and consider those and just write down a few ideas for each. And we'll discover you're going to reduce competition with the parent plant. If the plants are spread, there's going to be fewer plants lost to predators and from pests and other fungal infections. So how the seeds are dispersed, several methods, and we've got allocory, which is a secondary factor which may include wind, water, other animals. We're going to look first at just animal dispersal, and seeds, pips, are eaten because there's a fruit with it that attracts different animals, and some seeds are carried underground, bats feeding off nectar, seeds with hooks, and some less common ones on fish egg cases. And here we have the endozoochory, where an animal will eat a pip, the seed, and eliminate it in their feces further away from the plant. The examples there to look at. And here we have malacochory, where snails and slugs will disperse seeds, and some diagrams here with some lichen spores here. And a specific one, the myrmecochory, where ants can actually carry seeds, and there's a special adaptation to the seeds to allow the ant to carry the seed, and it often contains food that is appealing to ants, and it takes them underground where it will grow. And one particular bird here, the three-wattled bellbird, you can see its three wattles hanging down below its beak, and it goes into clearings to attract females. This is the male one, and so where it poops, and indeed where the females are going to poop in these open areas, is more advantageous to the seeds growing. And here we've got birds, water birds, that may have seeds in their feathers and disperse them on their bill, on their feet, etc. And some plants have a mucus which get onto the bird, and the seeds are trapped, and in fact get dispersed more widely because they stay stuck on longer. And then the attachment to the outside, epizoochory, and these are the burrs with hooks, and you've got some pictures there, one on a horse's mane and then one attached to a hiker's boot. and a less common one, but some seeds attached to the rough surface of a seed sac, an egg sac from a fish, and you then get them carried across in the water, and if they are transported far enough and washed up on a coastline, so you get that from Madagascar to South Africa, and examples in Iceland as well. And then hoarding. So here a squirrel carrying its hoard, bearing its hoards. That is going to disperse seeds. And animals with their hoarding, there are scatter patterns, and often seeds are reburied and moved. Interesting survey that was done here, and you can see how far they get from the parent tree. And then the saurochore with reptiles eating seeds here in the Galapagos Islands, and bats, Chiropterochore. So these particular bats are nocturnal, and the cactus here are night blooming, the flowers producing nectar, which is attracting the bats, and they in turn will disperse the seeds. Dispersed by two different animals, Diploendozochore. The endozochore is the pooping bit, and here's a dung beetle actually moving a pile of dung, which is going to feed their larvae. Dispersal by humans, Anthropochore. So some of this is very organized farming, and some of it's the seeds on socks, etc. And an invasive aquarium plant accidentally being dispersed by humans on boats from one lake to another. And so humans damage seed dispersal, removing ecosystems that favoured animals for eating the fruits and the seeds and dispersing them. Probably human here, but flying drones, and actually looking for planting areas, and they can actually scatter seeds themselves. Now, there's another type called autochore, and this is where plants disperse their seeds without any external help. But this will limit dispersal distance, and the stem of a plant can crawl along and deposit seeds far from the base of the parent plant, and you see it here on a beach area, a blastochore. And also with autochore, some of the seeds have spikes on them which dig in, and as the plant sort of moves, rotates round, and it crawls, and that's your herpochore. And then there are some seeds which need a particular temperature, high temperature, to actually release seeds, and are reliant on forest fires, which removes the undergrowth, and then the seeds which survive the fire are produced as the cones release the seeds. The seeds are then in areas where the undergrowth has been removed. And then we look at gravity, barochore, and for example, a palm tree dropping its coconuts down, and the seedling will grow there. And some rolling perhaps, and ditto with with apples and other fruits, but of course they are often eaten as well after they've fallen and dispersed even further. And then there's ballistic dispersal, ballicory, and this is where the seed is actually physically ejected a distance from the seed, and there's a dehiscence, a weakness in the seed's covering which splits when it's ripe, and then you've got mechanical energy which is dispersing the seed further, so transferred to kinetic energy. And there's one on the right here, the pod of the dynamite tree, with a very loud explosion as the fruit bursts, and it can the seed can be dispersed at 30 to 100 meters. And then in lots of gardens, we'll call it a weed, presager of spring, and the hairy bittercress here with small pods, and as they dry, the seed will explode when it's touched by an animal, or often anyway when it's finally dried, and scattering the seeds a metre or more from the parent plant. Then we can look at wind dispersal, anemochory, but that's going to depend on the height of the release and the surrounding vegetation, the velocity of the wind, and very much the direction of the wind, and often there's a prevailing wind direction. And we have, by flying helicopter type movement, rotation of maple seeds away from the parent plant. And then the whole plant is blown along with tumbleweeds, and each year the stem will wither and the whole plant will be blown along. And then a method where there's a papery husk, and so you get a balloon-like effect which holds the seeds and transfers it along. And then the parachute type, by floating, the dandelion, and these fluffy parachutes, and they're single seeds, not the whole ball of the dandelion flower when it's turned to seeds. And there's lower pressure above. There's a whole sort of vortex that is making the parachute fly further. Then we look at water dispersal, hydrochory, and the seed dispersal through water plants, something like the water lily, producing fruits that are going to float for a while before dropping down to the pond floor and taking root and growing again. So the coconut falls from the palm tree and either germinates under the palm tree, or if it's on a beach and gets into the water, it has a husk which is very low density and floats with this fibrous coat to another island, another part of the island, wherever. And you can get seed dispersal during flooding, and you've got a site on the left where there's water ingress, and it's going to spread the seeds a particular distance. Then we look at the mangrove tree. So the seed pods germinate on the parent plant, and when big enough float in the water, and you can see them floating vertically away from the parent plant, and when they touch land, the seeds start to grow roots. Now here, I'm not going to spend too long on here, you can pause it for the seed dispersal summary. And then we go on to an activity. You're going to draw 3 different diagrams with a plant in the middle and a circle around it. and you're going to put 20 X's on each of the diagrams. One's wind dispersal, one's animal dispersal, one's water dispersal. How are they different? So you're going to show wind direction, current, etc. And on your diagrams, separate them to heighten the differences between the dispersal methods. Just don't put them all in one spot. And what's the radius for for each of your diagrams? And then thanks to Washington International School Team Science and Miss Beck's biology class.